Yo, what is going up and what is going on? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jagan Mills. Yeah, I know it's been a while. I hope you're having a good Saturday. It's been a heck of a day so far, and I'm feeling pretty good. And considering that tomorrow we have I guess, the news for the new DMZ, this is something I'm looking forward to. So I've been seeing a lot of other content creators and many alike talking about the whole, I guess, new DMZ 2.0, so to speak. And here are my thoughts. But let me just go ahead and go back to my initial video where I just blatantly, no words, just uploaded the trailer, and I'm looking forward to playing Modern Warfare 4, hands down. Only because I'm a fan of Infinity Ward, I'm a fan of Modern Warfare, so it's without a doubt I'm going to enjoy Modern Warfare 4. One of the things I wanted to touch on in regards to the current DMZ is that a lot of the information that people are sharing is actually the same. The only difference that I've come across is that its execution is going to be a little different. And what I mean by that is that recently I've been watching other content creators and things of that nature about, because I guess they got to play a little early. So good on them. Congratulations. But when people are, saying that DMZ is kind of going to be like the beta map, it probably is, all things considered. Um, People are trying to extrapolate the fact that it's technically a demilitarization zone and it's based on a real location, which I'm sure it is, no doubt. But just like the current DMZ, like it makes sense why there's no civilians and things like that because it's a demilitarization zone. So it's a DMZ, so of course there's not technically going to be a whole lot of civilians, just like in Al Mazrah, and just like we're going to see in the new game as well. Um, so I mean, I can't. It doesn't make a difference. I mean, DMZ is in its name alone. So if it's a DMZ, like I expect it to be that. So when I guess people are calling back where people, I guess, were explaining where the devs were saying, "Oh, we're trying to explain like why there's no civilians." Yeah, it's a DMZ. I get it. I mean, I guess there's other people who don't understand what a demilitarization zone is, but it is what it is. People are making claims that this current DMZ, including the devs, are kind of trying to separate the fact that this is a third mode. Yes, the Dmz 2.0, if you want to call it that. Yes, it's in fact it's a third mode. I don't know why people are saying it's not a third mode. It is. I mean, regardless of whether or not it ties in with the story or otherwise, it's a third mode that you have to manually select. It's its own experience. So technically, it's a game within a game. Almost. It's got its own progression from what I've been told and what I've seen, and based off of that, in leaks and rumors, so to speak, I welcome that. I mean, it's again, DMZ 2.0 is going to wind up being exactly what DMZ is. I mean, the only difference is, from my understanding, it's not going to be in a beta. So yeah, it's the quote unquote true DMZ. DMZ is DMZ. It's a playable experience. Get over yourself. It is what it is. A beta or otherwise, it's a DMZ. Okay, and I believe most of the part, more so than not, Infinity Ward is taking the criticisms from this current DMZ that's currently in beta that you can have access to. It's free to play, from Modern Warfare 2, right? They're taking all the criticisms that they got from way back when and applying those corrections to the current DMZ, which is good. That means that they were paying attention. They did want to move forward with the development of the current DMZ and to make it more expansive, make it more enjoyable and more appealing to a lot of people, which is fine. I welcome that. And I believe that just like in the Modern Warfare 2 for the multiplayer, people didn't like the fact that perks were timed, right? So they're no longer adding that within the current Modern Warfare 4 multiplayer experience. Interesting. It's almost as if what they're doing is taking ideas or feedback and liberties that they had made or saw that Sledgehammer did in Modern Warfare 3, right? No, Roman numeral 3, and applying that, those changes, which I think is fine. I think it's awesome. And they're using the aesthetic from the original Modern Warfare 3, the OG from 2011, which again, I welcome. They took some creative liberties with Modern Warfare 2 and DMZ, the beta, and they set out to do what they wanted to do, and they got feedback, and they continued to say, it didn't dissuade them not to continue to develop DMZ. It didn't get them to say, oh, okay, I guess we're just going to go ahead and give up. What happened is they said, here's what we can do. We heard the feedback, we realize what works, and we realize what doesn't work, and here's the changes that we're going to make, and I welcome that through and through. And I think that's beautiful, right? And of course, this current DMZ is not going to be part of Warzone because they're not really doing a heavy focus on Warzone this coming year. If anything, Warzone is no longer going to be on past gen consoles, meaning the Xbox One and the PS4 and such. So that makes perfect sense to me. So again, maybe it's time for people to kind of move forward either to PC, right? Steam machine, or I don't know, maybe current gen consoles, maybe? Who's to say? I mean, to each their own. So there is reports that there is going to be dynamic missions, and by that, it's just instead of you having to probably manually select the contracts, for example, it's going to be based off proximity. So I think a good example is if you've played the extraction mode in Delta Force. So if you get close to certain items that are specific to maybe a side mission or something or the other, it'll proactively, there will be an audio, and I believe you can actually hear this more so in in-game is a better example. So if you get close to a contract, you'll hear Karma or another character actually say, hey, well, we have such and such going on in your proximity, go ahead and look into it. That's pretty much what we're going to wind up seeing in the current DMZ. So they're actually using liberties and some ideas and implementations from in-game to be implemented in DMZ. So again, this is not going to be anything new. This is something that we already experienced for those who actually enjoy and play in game. Okay, I know there is some disappointment with individuals who don't like the fact that there's not going to be Modern Warfare zombies or anything like that, but you got to admit they use the same formula. The same formula from DMZ currently in the beta for Modern Warfare 2 is exactly the Modern Warfare zombies what we'll see in Modern Warfare zombies, right? It's the same format through and through. The only difference is it's a PvE, not a player versus player. In this case, yes, for the new DMZ 2.0, it is player versus player. There, of course, will be player hunters and things like that. But now, from reports, there's going to be bounty boards. So, like we see in the ranked mode, the top 250, which is going to be, from my understanding, split up from the notion of best stealthiest player or best player hunter, best bounty hunter, and so forth. So there's going to be different play styles, like, and it's kind of circling back to the whole Sentinel mode and assault mode and the assault type player play styles, right? So again, I want to let people know it's DMZ, the beta, the first one in this case, is going to be one and the same with DMZ 2.0. It's just that its implementation, its execution of features is going to be different. So there's been talks about the fact that there's going to be a headquarters or a home base, like we saw, for example, in World War II, Call of Duty World War II. It may not be that one for one, but I'm picturing an operations base, a base of operations, for example, and we can go ahead and upgrade, let's say, our wallet, or we can go to our what is it called? The gunsmith, for example, a gun bench, like we saw in, for those who know, on Battlefield Hardline, we can maybe utilize a gun bench feature and actually upgrade our gun and customize our gun and things like that. For those who know, that's an old game. I haven't played Battlefield Hardline in a while. Anywho, but again, it's something that we already have. So we can go to a gunsmith in a menu in all of the Call of Duties right now and just customize our gun. But in this case, it might be another action that we would have to do. So we would exfil from the DMZ, right? We would go back to our base of operations or something like that. We would walk over in our little social area that we can now actually walk into, go over to maybe a gun bench or another operator or character that will be introduced in, and we'll be able to interact with them, and they'll say, okay, I see you have a new gun here. Would you like to upgrade it? Or, they'll say some sort of dialogue, and you can, obviously, like I'm doing now, you can just upgrade it, right? So again, the only difference is you'll have maybe an NPC right in front of you in the foreground actually just talking to you or something like that, right? So again, same thing, just implemented differently. And it could be something like this too. We might see buy stations within the DMZ as well. We might see merchants within the DMZ as well. Again, this is nothing new. Okay, we actually have this already in the DMZ. Same thing with the dynamic weather. So I don't know if anyone is aware of this. So for those of you who have watched Warzone and things like that, or Jowo, Swag, Mutex, whatever, every time that they go in, for example, if they went into Vondel or they hopped in a game in Vondel, sometimes Vondel was foggy. Sometimes Vondel was clear. Sometimes if they went into Rebirth Island or Ashika Island, sometimes it was foggy, sometimes it was clear, sometimes it was raining, sometimes it wasn't. Right. So again, there are certain things that occur that people don't really want to point out. And what my issue is that dynamic weather on par with, for example, like we saw in Battlefield 2042, I can see that being the case. So let's say maybe one, like how people are explaining it is, oh, maybe one day like you'll hop in or go into the DMZ and it'll be foggy. Sometimes it'll be clear. That already happens within other maps based on SBMM. And we've already seen this, and specifically not with Al Mazrah, for example. We actually see this in Vondel and Ashika Island. Sometimes Vondel is foggy. Same thing within Warzone at the time with Modern Warfare 2, and sometimes it's clear. Same thing with Ashika Island. Ashika Island sometimes is foggy. Not all the time. Sometimes it's clear. Sometimes it's rainy and windy. It just depends on SBMM and RNG. I'm just pointing it out. We have already seen these features, but when they say dynamic, will this happen gradually in the same, for example, 25 minutes to 30-minute gameplay that we'll have? Will we see, for example, I'm playing a 30-minute session in Al Mazrah. Will I see a dust storm roll in within the first 10 minutes when I'm playing in Al Mazrah or in the next DMZ? We don't know. That would be a gradual or dynamic, realistic weather change. For example, if we're going to be, if it's like snowy, will we see like droplets of snow and stuff like that? Maybe. Will we gradually see snow maybe in the background, maybe snowy mountains, or will we see a dust storm or something like that, or a hurricane slowly pass through? Maybe, maybe not. But again, it is something that I'm looking into. Another thing that I've noticed that no one's really talking about is specifically that it pertains to this current iteration of DMZ. And the newest DMZ is the whole claim of YouTubers and content creators saying that the whole bundles that include, for example, a self res, a two-plate armor, or for example, a UAV and things like that. Will we see bundles return that have that quote unquote pay to win element where it could actually, give an edge for another player, for example? So maybe, maybe not, but this is something to be asked because no other content creator on the matter is really talking about it. I don't know if we'll see another price operator that's going to be tied in with if you buy it for like let's say 2400 COD points, that'll have a UAV attached to it, so it'll be a DMZ. So if you die with your gun, is there going to be a cooldown? These are things that are not being talked about and not being mentioned, but we'll probably hear more tomorrow, right? Because that's when they're going to be offering some more news on the matter. Will we see upgrades within the exfils like we see in this current DMZ, where the exfil time will take a shorter amount of time when we call it in, or we can call it in at closer locations in proximity? Will we see these features come back? Who's to say? What I do know is that a lot of what we're seeing now in this current iteration of DMZ is exactly what we will wind up seeing, just executed differently in the newer DMZ this year. It'll be nothing different. There might be a situation where the only way to expand our cash amount, if we were to, or credit amount, however the currency may be, is we would have to scavenge for stuff to be able to expand our wallet, for example. If we want to go ahead and, I guess there's going to be like a 3D printer and things like that. Okay, cool. And people are eating this up where we are constantly forgetting that this has already been implemented and we're just we're getting back what we already had. It's going to be repackaged and delivered and executed differently. So we don't even know if there's going to be bosses like we see in this current DMZ. There's been no talk about that. It would be cool to see them return. It would be cool to see the chemist return, the pyro return. What I do find interesting is that there has been reports that there's going to be certain pockets of radiation like we see in this current DMZ, how just one big area where there's radiation and it slowly expands, right? We may see pockets of radiation that may pop up throughout the whole map in spotty locations, for example. But the first thing that came to my mind is exactly what we had in Caldera, where we had, the circle A and circle B, and then eventually it just forms into one main final circle, right? Does anyone remember that in the Caldera Warzone gas? The gas formulation, how it's circle A and B, and then eventually it tapered off to one main circle, the final circle. So again, now that I think about it, I'm probably mistaking that for the current, not the current Al Mazrah, but the Al Mazrah that it is. I don't know. Trying to make sure I get all my information right because I do remember it was either Caldera where there was like a circle A and circle B, and then it eventually merged into one final circle. I don't know. There's been a lot of changes, sometimes good changes too, that has happened throughout the history of Call of Duty. But we'll have to see how things pretty much pan out with the new DMZ. And then again, I'm truly am looking forward to it and to see how things come about. It's something that I'm looking forward to. I'm not one to really hype everything up, and I'm not one to oversell people. I mean, everything that I'm hearing now is exactly what we already had. It's just going to be executed differently. It's going to add probably additional more steps to achieve and to gain access to, and it'll just be more interactive, and it may cause people to have more retention that they can report on for players for player retention. So again, I'm not. I have other questions that are more pressing, like for example, bundles that are maybe claimed as pay to win. Will we see bosses return? Will we see our old content actually carry over that kind of fits the theme and the mold of the DMZ? For example, there are certain operator skins that are milsim like that people either spent money on or spent time on unlocking. And will we see that return? Will there be a return of maybe if, for example, if we want our old way, our old menus back from what we're used to from the DMZ, will we see that? And of course, I mean, it may when people start getting used to finding out how to player hunt. Trust me when I say, people will have fun with it. But I think because of the same nature of it all, the way that DMZ is now currently free to play, we'll see a lot more player hunters too as well in the coming in this coming year. So either way, I'm looking forward to it. But time will tell, and I'll be seeing you guys on Sunday to have more further news on the matter that I'm already privy to, but it'll be available to the public. Either way, this is Yagan Mills. I hope everyone's having a good Saturday, and remember always, peace be with you. Ciao, guys.